Good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, good evening, and good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. A Tuesday night special. WeatherBrains number 906. This is for the 30th of May, 2023. And we indeed have a Tuesday night special going on here. Last night, for those that are watching later, was Memorial Day. And a lot of our folks were not available, so we opted to move the show over to Tuesday night. So here we are. Glad you're with us. And let me get my show notes going here. I'm way behind the Powerball here. Typically open up the pre-show about 10 minutes before showtime. We're 4 minutes before showtime. But if you've never been here before, this is the pre-show, the magical, marvelous time of the program where we do three things primarily. We share boring personal stories, we share humorous anecdotes, and occasionally we say very, very, very outrageous things. So we're basically a couple of days away from the beginning of meteorological summer, the beginning of the Atlantic hurricane season. We kind of shift our emphasis from down here where we are, from the tornado season into the tropical season. And typically things are relatively calm weather-wise this time of the year, which is a good thing. I run excessively hard from January until May, about 4 to midnight every day, but it's good. I will never, ever gripe about those hours. I love what I do. But we are a little slower in the month of June, which is a good thing. And I'll take a vacation week, which means we're going to do a couple of shows the week before that vacation week. Let's see, my vacation week is June 19th through the 23rd. So we'll probably do two shows the week of the 12th. And we have never missed a week, oddly enough, since January of 06. Sometime, again, when I'm on vacation, we'll do a couple of shows prior to that. And I know that we've got some out tonight. I think Troy's going to join us late. I know Jen might not make it. She's got a big project she's wrapping up tonight. Bill Murray has been sending these odd photographs from Germany. You know, we haven't seen Bill. I guess he's still on the pub crawl. They moved it to Germany.
Are we ever going to see him again?
He's just vanished. I mean, we've not seen Bill in like a month, and I watch his Twitter feed, and all these mysterious German photographs are showing up. So I guess he found a 50-cent beer night in, I don't know, Munich, or I don't know where, but I would assume he will not be on the show tonight because over there it's fairly late. Do I need to invite our guest?
I've sent Danae the invite, so he should be coming soon.
Okay, I mean, this is going to be good. It will be a good shoe. And let's see here. See, we got Rick on the line. And this might be it, which is fine. And we're going to hit the TV side here in 18 seconds. And hopefully Dr. Carlos will be able to join us. And if not, we will just wait until he shows up. But we'll get the thing started here on time. And there he is, right on time. This man is punctual. And welcome to our television viewers. We're doing this on Tuesday night this week. If you're new here, we typically do WeatherBrains Monday night, but we've joined our television side here 7 o'clock on Tuesday. So welcome to a Tuesday night WeatherBrains special. Dr. Carlos, can you hear us okay?
Yes. Can you hear me?
Loud and clear.
All right.
I'll warn you, we got some troublemakers on the show here.
I know at least 75% of them.
Yeah. No, it's all going to be good. All right, let me get the recorders going. And all right, track 1, track 2.
Danae, it's a little bit quiet when you're farther away from the computer. Just letting you know.
Okay.
That's great.
All right. All right, here we go in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. WeatherBrains episode number 906. the weekly show that's all about weather, the oldest weather podcast in the universe. This is for Tuesday, May 30th. We're recording this on a Tuesday night special, but it's going to be a good one. Glad you're here, and we're trying to figure out where Bill Murray is. Kim, the guy's been gone for like a month on a pub crawl, and now he's in Europe somewhere.
You know what we need our listeners to do? They've gotten really good at photoshopping cute things for us. We need them to get the Where in the World is Carmen Sandiego music and adapt it for Where in the World is Bill Murray? Because where is he?
Exactly. We don't know. He's on the longest pub crawl ever. So we hope he comes back next week. Rick Smith, what's the longest pub crawl you've been on?
I don't even know. I've never been on one, so I don't. 0 AMS. Well, yeah.
He just doesn't remember.
Yeah, he has no memory of it.
I do not recall. That's the answer, I guess.
No, Kim in the chat room has some possibilities for you there. I mean, and she says, like everybody else, oh, come on.
Kim needs to stay out of it as well. So.
No, listen, I've been to AMS and NWA meetings, and I know I have a funny feeling Rick has been on a pub crawl, but he's protecting some innocent people here. Rick, how you doing? What's happening in Norman, Newcastle?
Oh, doing good. It's almost safe to one more day, and we can get through this month that begins with an M and talk about how relatively Q-word it's been. Not yet though. But been nice. We've been getting some rain off and on, and not any of the nasty stuff that goes with it. So it's we'll never complain about that.
We got James Adelot, soon to be Dr. James Adelot in Tulsa town. James, how are you?
I'm doing well. Hope everybody's Memorial Day weekend was at least somewhat relaxing.
I'm going to test you again. What was your lead story on the news tonight?
Thanks, guys. Happy summer.
And let me preface this by saying, for our newscast, I have no earthly idea because I don't pay attention. I'm like busy.
Yeah, I just don't remember either. And it's not because I was busy.
No, it's like I think people should walk a mile in our shoes. For everybody on this show, everybody, they don't understand what we do. And if we could just somehow get people to walk in our shoes for one day, they will understand that it can be somewhat challenging at times. But again, I will never complain about what I do. I love what I do. I cannot wait to come to work every day, but it can be hectic and challenging, and it's always full of multitasking. Dr. Neil Jacobs, do you ever wish that somebody could walk a mile in your shoes?
Oh, yeah. Although I bet they probably don't wish that.
So you are where tonight?
I am in North Carolina.
Okay. So did you get some time off for the long weekend?
I mean, relatively speaking, it was pretty much me playing catch up on email and doing other stuff around the house. Yeah, that was it. Chores.
Okay.
And
I work every year on Memorial Day, but it's almost like a day off because there are no school visits during the middle of the day. And it's like I'm working 8 hours and it's like easy. And there's no bosses in the building and it's just very quiet. And typically the weather is quiet, which is wise this year. But Kim, are you going to introduce our guests? Do you have the pleasure of doing that tonight?
I figure that at the very least, Neil and I can tag team this one because I think of all of us, he's probably known Danae the longest. But I am very, very happy to welcome to the show Dr. Danae Carlis, who is the current director of the National Severe Storms Laboratory. Welcome to the show, Danae.
Thank you very much, Kim. I'm excited to be here with you guys.
Yeah, we're excited to have you. And Neil, do you want to take the reins and start with some of Danae's background? I have a feeling you can lead us to the good spots.
Yeah, tell us some good stories, Neil.
we'll get to those. Yeah, I want to hear the background from the start. I can tell you my first actually ran into Danae through a PowerPoint that he produced like way back in the NSEP days with, I think, Jeff D'Amigo maybe. And it had to do with how how like the low volume of satellite data that was being used. You remember that?
Yeah, I remember it.
And I was like, who put this study together? This was like, oh, this is like the early 2000s maybe, or something like that. That was and then I finally like met you and I was like, wait, I remember this name. You're the one who did that study. So tell us a little bit about like your backstory, like way back, like grade school, high school, interests, family. I mean, I never knew you were actually from like the Norman area when you were saying you get to go back home.
Yeah, I'm actually from where James is located, the future Dr. Adelot, from Tulsa, Oklahoma, born and raised. Just grew up in some sense loving science. I was fascinated by science. I love solving problems. I had the opportunity to be kind of mentored by one of Tulsa's few Black medical doctors. I happened to be friends with his son. And he really did inspire me. He really was the one who really kind of helped me to, see myself as a scientist, because his name is Dr. Gary Davis. He's deceased now, but he's one of those. He was a character, a storyteller, um, just a scientific genius, to be honest. And he inspired me, and as well as others, to go into this particular field, because he would always sit us down before I went out and did something stupid on the town on a Friday, Saturday night. He would require me and my dumb friends to be coached and mentored by him. And he would tell us all of these amazing stories about him doing science as a teenager at Booker T. Washington High School, and then going off to Dartmouth University and doing science and chemistry there. Although I wasn't the greatest of chemists, coming as a high schooler, chemistry and biology is really where I kind of found my place when I went off to undergrad at Howard University at the age of 17. And that's when I left Oklahoma at the age of 17, and now I'm back 28 years later or something like that. And it's good to be back. It's good to be back in my old stomping grounds. It's good to be around people that love weather. And I really got into weather when I got to Howard. And Howard was one of those places that really just cultivated my love and my passion for people, and my love and passion for science. And I got into science. I got into meteorology, really thinking that how can I make an impact in this world? And meteorology impacts us on each and every day basis. And so the fact that Howard had a brand new program with the NOAA Center for Atmospheric Science back in the early 2000s, they were looking for students that were really interested in making an impact in the world. And they asked me, Danae, do you want to get a free degree? And I was like, absolutely. And I said, in what? And they said, in atmospheric chemistry, atmospheric science. And I said, let's go ahead and get it done. I talked to my wife about it, and she encouraged me. And so, that's really how I got into atmospheric sciences. Somebody asking me, do you want a free degree tonight?
That's awesome. So what, where'd you go like from there? Like, did you have a focus as an undergrad?
My focus mainly was I thought I wanted to be a medical doctor, because I was trying to be like my mentor. But then biology 101 kicked me in the tail, and I said, okay, what can I do slightly differently that I really enjoy? And chemistry was what I really enjoyed during that particular time. And so I did a lot of organic chemistry. I did a lot of analytical chemistry. I lived in New York for 3 months, did a internship up at the City University of New York, worked in one of the laboratories at the university at Howard doing organic and analytical chemistry, and just really trained my mind on what it meant to be a scientist. And I loved every second of it. I realized when I did the internship that I didn't necessarily want to be in a laboratory, like, mixing chemicals each and every day. I really wanted to do something that really involved and impacted people's everyday life. And so when I found kind of meteorology, and growing up in Oklahoma, you're always aware of the weather. I just didn't know that it was a career that I could pursue from a research perspective. I didn't want to be James. I'm not as pretty as James, and I didn't want to be both Jameses. I'm not as pretty. I'll have closer the hair of a James man, but I'm not as pretty as James fan. I'm not as pretty as James ate a lot. And so I didn't think I could be on TV or anything like that. And so I was more of a background person. I wanted to be in the background doing all of the research and all of those kind of things. And so, when I got into that master's degree program at Howard, they set me up with a position out at NASA. I would be in classes, and there would be all of these different NOAA people come into our classes and speaking about numerical weather prediction, cloud physics, data assimilation, aerosols. And, I'd happen to fall in love with the numerical weather prediction aspect of it because I was falling in love with computers in the early 2000s. And so our ability, I found it really fascinating that we could use mathematical equations, run on a supercomputer to actually simulate the atmosphere. And when I would see clouds using Viz 5D, you probably heard of Viz 5D, Neil. I would see these clouds and just.
I still run it.
Oh my God, you need to get rid of that. So that's what really, amazed me. I would just fell in love with the fact that, math and science and computers could all be used in one kind of field. And that's why, I believe meteorologists are some of the most well-trained scientists in the world, to be honest, because we can do it all.
So any sort of standout professors or mentors at Howard that really sort of had an impact on your career trajectory?
Yeah, absolutely. So many just kind of took me under their wing to help me to learn the things that I really didn't know, because I'm a first generation everything. My dad was a salesman at Sears. My mom was a secretary. And so being in this particular field, I didn't really have kind of a guiding path, basically, or a person that could just show me that I could follow their trajectory. And so, me being first generation, the mentors at Howard, people like Dr. Vernon Morris, people like Everett Joseph, who's the director of NCAR now, people like Greg Jenkins and those particular individuals, Dr. Joshua Halpern, who got me on at NASA, where I was doing looking at satellite measurements and measuring the absorption cross sections of different satellites for the total ozone mapping spectrometer, TOM satellite. Those are the people that really kind of helped me along. So my ability to listen and follow directions is really why I'm here now. Because I had no idea what the hell I was doing, to be honest. I was just trying to figure out my path and and listen to the people that knew how to help me get to where I really wanted to be. And so those are the types of people that really kind of helped and pushed me from a scientific perspective, right?
That's amazing. I never knew that about your parents. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah.
So where did you go to NASA? Right
Yes.
after?
I went to NASA during for my master's degree. And being in DC in Howard, you have access to all of the national laboratories, all of the federal government, right? And so I was a student at Howard, but most of my time I took some classes at Howard, of course, but most of my time was spent out at the Goddard Space Flight Center doing my research out there. I did research with a couple of scientists, NASA scientists out there. And the funny thing is, I know Neil, I know you've been to Antarctica, and I remember them asking me, Danae, are you interested in going to Antarctica? And this is the 22, 23-year-old Danae. I was like, nah, I don't think I can do that. It's too cold down there. But now I would totally do it.
There was two things that I wanted to do when I went to NOAA, and one was fly into a hurricane. The other one was figure out how to get to Antarctica.
You got both.
Because I knew there's like, you can't just like book a flight. You gotta have like a government reason to be down there. So where'd you go when you wrapped up your PhD?
So funny story about the PhD though. I was working for NOAA. There were two women that basically told me, Danae, you need to join NOAA. And this was right after my master's degree. NOAA had been recruiting folks from minority serving institutions to join the ranks of the agency.
Wait, were you in the Weather Service line office at the time?
I was a student, and then the two ladies recruited me to join NOAA, and the position that they had for me was as part of the Weather Service.
Got it.
So I joined the Weather Service in 2002, kind of unofficially, because I wasn't necessarily getting paid by the Weather Service. I was getting paid by the Office of Education, NOAA's Office of Education. And that particular Office of Education moved me and my family in 2002 to Hawaii. And so I worked at the National Weather Service Pacific Region headquarters, and I worked at the Honolulu Forecast Office while I was out there. So I was getting my PhD at Howard University, and at the same time, living in Hawaii, working at Pacific Region and working at the forecast office out there, learning all about, forecast, the NWS in some sense from a forecast office perspective. And so when I graduated in 2007, they wanted me to go work in Guam. And I remember going to tell my wife, well, I think we're going to be moving to Guam to start my career as a forecaster. And she was like, I'm not moving to Guam. She said, you may be moving to Guam, but I'm not moving to Guam. And so that lit a fire in me to go and talk to some people back at the Weather Service headquarters. So I went and talked to the Meteorological Development Lab director and the Environmental Modeling Center director, and told them, that I was ready for a job in their organizations back in DC. And come to find out 2 months later, the Environmental Modeling Center had a job for me. So the Office of Education moved me back to DC, and I started my career as a research meteorologist at the Environmental Modeling Center, working on the global forecast system model and doing all of those observing system experiments, the type of work that you were talking about. I was doing a lot of that type of stuff too when I was there, as well as studying the dropouts for the GFS.
Boy, we got to figure out how to solve that problem. I was just looking at the 30-day anomaly correlation scores, and I think it probably would be right up there close to the Euro if it wasn't for this one dropout like a week or two ago.
Oh no, it's still happening. I thought we had fixed this. Maybe when we get my recommendation was get us a better data assimilation system. We'll be fine.
We're still talking about that. It's the summer workshop, JEDI and JCSDA. We'll hopefully get that off the ground here soon. We'll get to that in a little bit, I'm sure. So you were at the old NSET building.
I was there in the dirty brown, what was it, Suitland building, where we were all kind of stuffed in there. but it was great, man. I mean, to be in a space like that, working with some of the scientists where I was reading their papers and, just learning how to be a meteorologist or a research meteorologist, I was completely fascinated by the fact that I could, sit next to my peers. I could go over and talk to people about some of the scientific questions that I had. And a lot of, working at the Environmental Modeling Center, back in those days, we pretty much, any model that was going public, it was developed and kind of cultivated within the spaces and the halls of the Environmental Modeling Center. We didn't typically take a lot of outside model development work, as you probably know, Neil, but that changed over time as more scientific researchers got interested in, numerical weather prediction, and it got cheaper for the private sector and academia to actually use to run, numerical weather prediction models and try to transition their innovations into the Environmental Modeling Center and the National Weather Service. So over time, that got much easier. It's much easier today than it was, say, back in 2007 when I started there.
It's pretty wild to think about how far we've come with like the whole community modeling stuff. Because I remember emailing Steve Lord and just asked him, can I get my hands on the GFS code? And that was like the craziest thing anyone had ever asked. He's like, why? Why don't you just use the output? We make the output available for free. You're going to have to go buy a $30 million computer to actually run the code. And I thought,
pretty much.
We've got our reasons, but then, it was, I was given a brown bag seminar there one day, and this was all Bill Lapenta. I think he saw the potential of pushing the code out to the community could do. And he's like, you got to come give a talk. And it was the day that the DC had that earthquake. And I was given a talk in that building, and we were on the top floor, and we all ran out. Were you there that day?
I was there.
Because we all ran out into the parking lot, and no one wanted to go back into that building because they were like, it's not safe.
Like, I don't know if this building is going to stay standing, so maybe we need to go home.
Yeah, that was a wild day. I mean, I remember I was in Bill's office, and we didn't know what it was at first, and then once like the waves started shaking the cars in the parking lot, and he's like, well, what are we supposed to do? I'm like, I don't, you're the boss here. So he grabbed his vest. I think he was like one of those folks who's like supposed to lead people out of the building or check to make sure everyone was out. That was a wild day. But I also want to come back to Bill here in a little bit.
Yeah.
So you're working at EMC and NSSL, and then I ran into you again a couple times when you were up at NOAA headquarters. So what, how did you get from being an EMC to working for Dr. Spinrad?
Yeah, that was the Leadership Competencies Development Program. That's NOAA's premier leadership development program. I actually, as a GS 13, I applied to be a part of this particular program, and at that particular moment in time, that for a GS 13 to get into LCDP, you're pretty early in your career almost. You're mid-career, but you're kind of early for LCDP, right? Because usually the GS 14s, 15s are the people that usually get into those particular positions, because those are the people that are likely to go to a senior executive service type position. And so for me, it was, my wife encouraging me to apply. It was friends encouraging me to apply. And just a lot of people that were, like Danae, I think you could really, I think you're going to be a good scientist, but I think you could be a great leader. And once I figured out that I could be a like that I believed in my heart that I could be a great leader, then I wanted to be prepared for that. And so, applying for the leadership development program was something that to me was kind of far-fetched, to be honest, as a GS-13, but I got in. The National Weather Service let me in, and when I got in, I said, okay, if you usually go on like rotational assignments and detail assignments, and so you don't necessarily stay in your home office. And so with being a part of that program, it's kind of, we call it the golden ticket. You can do pretty much anything across the agency that you really want to do, and other agencies. So I've known people to go to the World Meteorological Organization. I've known people to go to the Department of Transportation, Navy. I've seen people go work at Google while a federal employee in that particular program. And so you can do whatever it is that you want to do. And for me, what I felt that I needed to do was build on my ability to lead and to understand strategy and vision, and how does the overall big picture NOAA actually work. So Dr. Spinrad, when politicals, they come in and they need support staff to actually get things done. And so knowing that, politicals put out these opportunities to people that are part of LCDP, and I just applied for one of those opportunities, and it happened to be with Dr. Spinrad. And, it was just one of the best decisions I ever made. It was, being able to sit down with Dr. Spinrad, who's been a senior executive since the age of 37. This dude has been doing this for a long, long time and knows what it means to lead a large scientific organization. And so, having the opportunity to work for him was just something that I couldn't pass up. I still remember walking into his office, maybe the first day. Dr. Spinrad, he likes he calls it noodling sessions. And he kind of noodles about what's going on politically in the world, right? That could impact NOAA. And so, with these particular noodling sessions, you can come and talk about just about anything. And I remember him asking, he's a very inclusive leader as well. So he asked me my opinion on just some random topic. And I said, Dr. Spinrad, this is my first day. I have no idea what you're talking about. First things first. And I said, can you give me at least a week to get a sense of what it is that you guys are even doing and talking about during this particular session, so that I can get a feel for how I can contribute? Because I was coming from sitting at my desk coding every day, looking at Fortran code every day. I was not coming from a place where, we're talking about current topics. No, I was coming from a place of, how do we get this next GFS into operations within the National Weather Service? And I didn't know much about what the current topics were at that particular time. So he gave me some grace and let me try to figure out what exactly it is, how I could contribute to his particular team. And it was absolutely one of the best experiences of my particular career, getting the opportunity to work with him. We went down on the hill. He was kind of like my coach, my executive coach, and kind of mentor during that particular time, because we didn't always just talk shop. We talked leadership development. We talked about, my career aspirations. And he actually, in the write-up that he had, because you have to do an evaluation by the end of the time that you're a part of the particular rotational assignment. And he was the first person in my evaluation that wrote, in 10 years, you'll be a senior executive in the federal government. And so once he planted that seed in my mind, I was like, oh crap, maybe I can be a senior executive in the federal government. And that was 2000 and what was that? That was 2014 when he wrote that. And of course, I made it to a senior executive in 2023. So yeah, I beat him a little bit.
That's amazing. You should print that out and make him sign it again.
I will.
Hey, Dr. Carlos, I've got a quick question for you about leadership. What was the hardest thing for you in making the transition to leadership? I know people often will say they have trouble going from making the things to enabling other people to make the things or do the things. Curious of your personal journey through that.
I think for me, I 100% agree, because when you're, kind of a worker bee, and I'm used to being the worker bee and not doing all of the delegation and kind of managing all of the things that are kind of going on, it can be hard to let go. But I would say, I would say my first kind of foray into leadership, it's more so about learning the organization, right? So I've gone to a couple of organizations that I didn't necessarily know a lot about, like, NSSL. I knew about the weather mission, severe weather mission. I knew about some of the radar work that's going on in the organization. But I would probably say a good 50% of some of the science that's actually going on, I don't know everything about it. And so when you go into organizations like that, that's when you feel a little bit, I call it, well, one of my mentors called it being comfortably uncomfortable. You feel a little uncomfortable in the space. I feel great as a leader that I can lead an organization, but I'm very uncomfortable with the content, right? So at some level, okay, well, how do you spend your time? And so for me, I spend my time listening, and I spend my time talking to people about what it is that they do and why is it important, and asking them just the basic questions of why should I even care about what you do, and how does it actually impact the American people? Because the American people are who pays my salary. And so I ask those types of simple questions to get at the root of why it is that we are actually, spending money for someone to do this particular research topic, right? And so when you're coming into these kind of leadership roles, your ability to you're drinking from the fire hose. And so being able to take one bite at a time of the elephant that you're trying to eat, that is an organization, it's really, really important. And so you have to give yourself grace too. You got to give yourself some time to figure out the full landscape. And don't put too much pressure on yourself. You already earned the job, right? Hopefully I won't be fired before the end of my first year. But you put your plan in place and you execute your plan. And part of my plan is to get around and talk to as many people as possible so that I get the full landscape of why we do what we do and why it's important to the American people.
Hey, Danae, we have a fairly diverse audience that listen to the show. For those that are maybe kind of new to all of this, describe the National Severe Storms Lab. What's the purpose? What does it do? How many people work there? Kind of give us the basics of your facility there.
Yeah, I mean, well, we're in the National Weather Center. We're one of 10 NOAA research laboratories. And really, the National Severe Storms Laboratory is the world's preeminent laboratory for observing, understanding, and modeling severe storms. That is the gist of what we do. We focus on severe weather research. We work collaboratively with the National Weather Service, so people like Rick and people in the forecast offices, as well as in the national centers, really to ensure that the forecasters have the knowledge, capabilities, and technologies to remain world leaders in severe weather forecast, and ensuring that they have the ability to effectively communicate accurate, timely kind of weather information, so that we protect lives and property and support the National Weather Service mission. So when you look at NSSL, we're a hybrid organization. We have federal employees, contractors, as well as our cooperative institute partners at the University of Oklahoma. So it's probably close to 170 people within the laboratory. And the fact that I get a chance to work with all of those people to, achieve the NSSL NOAA mission, I definitely don't take it for granted. I come into work with a smile on my face each and every day. I get to work with people like Kim and Rick and, Jim Adelot whenever he comes down there to help out and learn about some of the new technologies that we're developing within the National Severe Storms Laboratory. That's the fun part, man. To be honest, I wish I could do more of that rather than sitting behind my desk signing papers. But at the same time, it's so gratifying to see kind of what the future of weather forecasting and weather information / services looks like. That's what we do at the National Severe Storms Laboratory.
And being Danae's across the street neighbor, I can attest to the fact that he's busy in his office a lot, conference calls, talking. So he's got lots of windows there. It's been really cool getting to talk to Danae every once in a while. I mean, we're literally sharing the same refrigerator and microwave there, so it's very cool. This has got to be a different place than you've ever worked. I mean, you talked about what the lab does, but you've been in the Weather Center a few weeks now. What are your perceptions about working there? Is it what you expected? Is it, kind of, it can be a crazy place with all the different interactions going on. So if you had any time to think about that, or what's your experience been so far?
Yeah, Rick, I don't know if you've noticed, but I'm an extrovert. So the crazier, the better for me. So the fact that there are all of these different organizations in the National Weather Service Center, I love it. I love the fact that we have students working right alongside our scientists. I love the fact that the WFO is I can walk to the WFO in a minute and a half and go over there and ask some questions about what's going on with our forecast, or what does the weather look like for the next, 72 hours here. I love the fact that I can go and talk to Russ at the Storm Prediction Center and just walk right down the hall, man. It's the coolest place to me. I've been selling the National Weather Center to everybody in NOAA, and I at least have 2 different organizations that want to come visit the National Weather Center because I've talked so great about the facility, the culture. And so that's the part that surprised me the most, was that how many students are actually working right alongside our scientists, and that we work closely with the university to ensure that these students are getting masters and PhDs and have undergraduate research experiences. That's what surprised me the most, because I was trying to push that in Colorado. But the fact that in Colorado, I didn't have the university, the School of Meteorology at the University of Colorado or at Colorado State in the same facility, that made it a little bit more difficult. And the fact that we have that in the National Weather Center just makes that place just amazing to work in each and every day. And I love it. I absolutely love it.
That's awesome. I'll throw it to Kim here in a second, but still going to take you up on your offer. We're going to go out and do a damage survey sometime. And
man, I've been telling people to get me up out of that office. So Rick, if you can get me off of a phone call, believe me, I will clear my schedule and just say Rick from the WFO told me that we're going out to do damage surveys, and I'm rolling with you, Rick.
It's not that far to McLean County. I mean,
Right. Yeah, that's awesome.
I mean, the way things are going, it's Norman too. It's been, although now we're in this quiet period. We'll say it's because you bought a house in, the area that maybe we're doing a little bit better. Although you mentioned that you got to see your first real in like first person mamatus the other day. Was that your first mamatus?
The fact that I didn't really start in meteorology until I was in my 20s means that I don't have all of the young person experiences and, looking at clouds all the time that say a Neil or a James Spann has. And so I'm getting there. My love for meteorology continues to grow, and the fact that I'm in Oklahoma, I can see all of these different phenomena occurring. Just completely blows my mind. So just give me some time. I'll become more and more of a severe weather nerd.
Oh, I'm sure you will. And I mean, something that I loved when the social media sort of took hold and they opened to everyone, not just college students, there was this renaissance where everyone from the Severe Storms Lab joined. And it was like this live map discussion all the time on Facebook. I think that time has sort of come and gone, and a little bit of it is on Twitter when they're not just fighting each other and at each other's throats. But there's still these great glimpses into the field. And I know, Danae, it seems as you are an extrovert, you also inhabit that space. I think one of the most delightful things is to watch when any event either hits Norman or comes close to Norman, you just get inundated with every single angle. And like, I never knew the just extraordinary heterogeneity of a hail field and just how different the sizes one could experience in a small area are until I moved to Norman, and one person in one neighborhood across from a person in another neighborhood were comparing, and it's incredible. You are about to join quite the legion of
believe me, I know.
But I want to circle back to something that was a thread through your life history. And you mentioned the importance of having, mentors who are people of color, scientists of color, and, that gave you these dreams all along your path. And you can't help but note, and it's something we've talked about a little bit on this show, but I want to unpack with you, that our field is almost painfully white. And I want to hear from you. Why do you think that could be an issue? And why should we be concerned with improving diversity in our field? What does that bring to the field? What can we do to bring that to our field?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. One that I get a lot. And to me, it starts with opportunities like this. To me, representation is really, really important. Seeing Jim on TV back in Tulsa. Jim, I don't know how long you've been on TV in Tulsa, but I've seen you plenty of times before. Maybe when I come down there to visit my mama and my daddy, I see you on TV. But at the same time, it's important to see women. It's important to see, African Americans. It's important to see Latinx individuals, doing what we do, because what we do is amazing. It really is. Like, the field of meteorology is something that impacts each and every one of us every single day. And when you think about statistics, the country is having more women and more brown people in it as we kind of go along into the future. And so, who are we actually going to be serving? We are very much so servants in the work that we do. And so we have to ensure that the information that we provide goes to each and every American out there, whether you white, black, brown, whatever, it doesn't make a difference. And so enabling that and ensuring that women and people of color are on our television screens and on our podcasts, on some of the videos that are kind of going out there, I think is really, really important. And that's one of the reasons why you'll never hardly ever get me to say no to an opportunity to go and speak to young people, because it's, to me, that's the future. And I want to be part of making our, society from a weather, water, and climate society perspective better, more inclusive. And it's not like there weren't a lot of white men and white women that helped me along the way. I just happened to go to a historically Black college and university where most of the people are brown. And those particular individuals happen to love the field of meteorology and gave me an opportunity to see myself in them. And, when I was at NASA, I worked mostly with white males, and they were some of the most supportive people. They're the ones who encouraged me to get my PhD. I was like, I think I want to go and earn some money. And they were like, no, Danae, you need to go and get your PhD, along with my wife, who said, if we broke right now, we might as well stay broke for another 4 years. And you go ahead and get this PhD. And so, it's, I'll claim stupidity because I didn't know what the heck I was doing. I was just listening to everybody else, and that was kind of telling me the things that I should be doing. And I just happened to have the capacity to complete a lot of what they asked me to do. And so I want to make sure that young people understand that they can do it, especially if I did it. You absolutely can get it done. You just got to have a great support system. You got to be able to envision your ability to actually complete the task that's laid out in front of you, and then go about getting it done, man, and be the type of person that just doesn't drop the ball. I think that's probably one of my keys to success is, Danae, you get people ask you to do things, but you actually get it done. You get results. And that's if you ask anybody, that's probably why I'm in this position now, is that I get results.
That's great. I'm going to pass you back. Sorry, I'll pass you back over to Neil in a second. But I think it's just really interesting to hear that perspective, and to also linger on that, like, making results. And I think I want to just say, for the National Severe Storms Lab perspective, a little bit of backstory. It's been a while since the lab had a director. We've sort of been in this nation state for a bit. I think the science of the lab flourished the most under the last director, who was there for quite a bit of time. It was Jeff Kimple. And he did exactly what you're talking about doing. He focused on, it's not his personal research. He focused on leadership, and he focused on being in the offices of the scientists. And, I think it's between that and what you're talking about with diversity, equity, and inclusion. It's about, scientists are humans, and we need to be supported like humans. And we bring all of that into our science. So, there's so much you're bringing to the lab and to Norman, and I hope that our audience can continue to follow you and this story, because it's just a really neat evolution that's going on, and I expect nothing but great things to continue to evolve in the science. So,
thanks, Kim. You make a great point about just it's to me, it's not my job to come in and create a new research portfolio for myself. That's not, I don't have time to do that. Number one, my job is to come in, listen to the people who are amazing at what they do, who have spent a good portion, 15, 20, 30 plus years of their career studying something. And then how can I tweak it? How can I help you take it to the next level? So that it can continue to improve our products, tools, services that we provide to them. Like, I always think about the end goal in mind. Like, the people are the end goal. Now, I'm responsible, and I love to talk to different people within the organization. So I'm responsible for what they do and how they do it. And I need to ensure that I empower them and enable them to do more of what they do, so that and then take the great things, that the great ideas that they have, and ensure that they're able to communicate those ideas and get those ideas into, the forecasters' hands.
Well, before I dive into some questions on Bill Lapenta, Troy's here. Welcome, Troy.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be. Danae, I apologize about being late tonight, but I've heard so much words of wisdom in the last 10 minutes that very, very impressed. And it's a pleasure to have you with us tonight. Thank you for your time.
Thank you for even joining, Troy. I really appreciate it.
So I was talking to some Lapenta interns just over the last couple of days, and one of the things as part of their orientation, because they're starting up here soon again, is asking that they all watch that video of Bill's last talk. And in the video, you're up there doing introductions and stuff. That I can't watch that video without tears. What was your history with Bill? Like, did that started back at NSEP?
It did. I got to NSEP, Environmental Modeling Center, in 2007. I think Bill got there 2009, 2010 as the deputy director. And when Bill came on, he kind of immediately took to me. And he was one of those people that I could go and talk to. He was a mentor. He gave me opportunities. He's the first person that gave me an opportunity to present at the National Weather Service Partners meeting. So I would present the whole EMC update. And it would be AccuWeather in the building, the Weather Channel in the building. And I'm the one giving the Environmental Modeling Center update. Now, before he let me go do that, he would sit me down, and my paper has so much red. I would develop the presentation, and he would go through and read out all of the different parts that he wanted me to change. And I thought I was bleeding by the time I got through working with Bill Lapenta. But at the same time, my presentations were so much better because he took the time to kind of help me develop, presentations, and and then gave me opportunities. And so we worked together from the time that, from 2009, 2010 till when I left to go to the NOAA Leadership Development Program in 2014. And at that particular time, Bill was the NSEP director then. So he was the deputy director, and then he jumped all the way up to the top and became the NSEP director, and that kind of shocked a lot of people. But it didn't shock me because I knew who Bill was. I knew the type of leader that he was. So him being the NSEP director, I had to go through him to get approval to even be part of the leadership development program. And so I would go and talk to Bill, and Bill would kind of tell me, hey, these are the things you need to be thinking about as you join the program. I'm excited that you're part of the program. I was the Environmental Modeling Center employee to be part of that particular program. And a lot of it is because, Bill took that time out to help to mentor me. And then I'll tell you one quick story. While I was in the leadership development program, you try to figure out exactly what rotational assignments you're going to do. And at one point, I was going to go work for the Office of Science and Technology Integration in the National Weather Service. And it was a Friday. I'm at the leadership program at the Federal Executive Institute, and Bill gives me a call from his perch as the INSEP director. And I'm like, what the heck is Bill doing calling me? And so he's like, Danae, what are you planning on doing next? I was like, well, on Monday I start as a employee of the Office of Science and Technology Integration. And Bill was like, well, I need you to go work for Manson Brown. I need you to go be his policy advisor. And this is a Friday. I'm supposed to go start on Monday at OSTI. He said, Danae, I think this is what's best for you. You don't need to go to OSTI. You already know all about the Weather Service. And he said, just go call, after we get off the phone, go call the director, which was Ming G at the time. Call the director and tell him that you're not coming, and that you got that Bill asked you to go and work for Manson Brown for the next 18 months.
He would word it just like that too.
Man, it was so direct. He was so direct and like to the point. And I was like, I mean, this is Bill telling me what to do. And he done called me and said, don't go and work for the Office of Science and Technology Integration. You need to go do this. I need you to do this. And when Bill asked me to do something, I did it. And so that's what I did. So I was like, all right, Bill, whatever you need me to do. And so I trusted Bill. I trusted Bill with my career, man. And he never let me down. And so so that was one time when Bill basically kind of told me something to do. And then the next time was the Earth Prediction Innovation Center, when he was working with you, Dr. Jacobs, working downtown for NOAA headquarters. And I don't know how my name came up, but he was like, Danae, I think you are the person that's going to be the Earth Prediction Innovation Center program manager, the founding program manager for EPIC. And when Bill asked me to do something, I'd just be like, all right, whatever you need me to do, Bill. And I was a GS-13, and basically working with the senior executives. So getting a chance to, work even more closely with you, Neil, as a GS-13 Band 4, that's kind of unheard of, to be honest, for Band 4s to work with the NOAA administrator, probably on you had my cell phone number. You would call me up sometime.
I would. I knew where to get the right answers from. I'll tell you a funny story about Bill. So by the way, Bill and I had a conversation about you, and I was like, Danae would be perfect for this. I was like, but you got to call and talk him into doing it. I can't do that. He's like, okay, I'll just tell him it was your idea. So he just shows up in my office one day and he's like, I figured out the perfect person to take a detail to help figure out the UFS and EPIC. And I was like, really? Who? And he goes, me. And I was like, you're an SES. You want to do a detail in my office? He's like, oh yeah. And I've already got a plan figured out to how to backfill myself and everything. And he just like went straight to the ink board.
No, and it's just so unconventional. I've never seen anybody that's in a senior executive service position go on detail, but that's Bill. He's very unconventional. He figures out a way to make magic happen.
Yeah, I mean, he was kind of always a mentor for me. So most of the time, I just gave him the pen and stood back. Because he not only knew how to solve the problems, he knew how to play the games and the strategy to get things across the finish line. None of this would have ever happened without either of you being on the team. And I want to talk about that in a second, because it was like between the three of us, I feel like we were 98% of the brain trust. behind what went on there. But what was it like? I remember hearing all these stories about Bill's leadership and all this stuff, but I remember standing in the back of the room on the last day of the workshop in Boulder when he grabbed the mic and ran up on stage. What was that moment like for you?
That's
By
the
the
moment.
way, for the listeners, my take on this was Bill just ran up on stage and grabbed the hot mic and just launched into this just mind-blowing thank you, this eloquent thank you about what an awesome job Danae did in pulling this workshop together and like how proud he was of them. And I would say I set the goal of like, let's do this thing. They're like, when you want to have it? And I was like, I don't know, like 4 weeks from now or something just ridiculous. And I thought if I say 4 weeks, that maybe it'll get done in like 4 months. And you did it in like a couple of weeks. I mean, I would set like these unrealistic expectations, and then Bill's like, "Oh yeah, we can do that, no problem." And you
you're the
pulled it
reason
off.
for all of my heartburn.
What was it like when he just grabbed that mic and just
Unexpected, man. I wasn't expecting that. I was ready to be done and go get some sleep, to be because I had to pull that whole thing together working with pretty much one staff member and then working with the committee of just different individuals who I won't name any names who were on the committee, but there can be some tough individuals on this particular committee. And then, trying to ensure that we met the vision that you had set forth for Epic, and trying to get that done as quickly as possible, while you guys were all still in office. So all of the time constraints were just it was really difficult, but we pulled it off. And I remember, I think I was named the Epic program manager in maybe March. And I think in June, I went back. I remember Bill saying, well, we've been talking about having this workshop. We've been talking about it. We've been talking about doing it in August. And I said, well, Bill, it's June. If we're going to have a workshop, I need to get on this now. I need to know if we're going to have this workshop. And he's like, yes, Danae, we're going to have this workshop. And it was probably June 1. And I think I sent emails out to the committee on June 2 to be a part of this committee. We're going to have this workshop in 8 weeks. And man, we got it done. And when he got up there to, give me some thanks, and he told me to come up there, I am an extrovert, but I can have introverted tendencies. I don't like always being in the public all the time. When he pulled me up there and said all of that, man, I just broke down. I couldn't hold it in, because he didn't have to do that. He really didn't. And, I was just doing my job, what I'm paid to do. And for him to get up publicly, and then for people to get up and, give me a round of a standing ovation and a round of applause and all of that kind of stuff, it was overwhelming. And that was way more than I was thinking was going to actually happen. And for Bill to be the one to say all of those things about me, I'll never forget it, man. I still got the picture. People were tweeting it and all of that kind of stuff. And so I still got that picture, man. And it was amazing.
I'm so glad that stuff was being videotaped, because, I guess he passed away like a month later.
Yeah, he passed away a week before we were supposed to have the Epic Industry Day. And I still remember you calling me.
That was so crazy. Like it was.
You were like, Danae, Bill passed away. I said, I know he's on vacation, but what do you mean he passed away? I didn't know what you really meant by that. Like, you mean he's gone? Like he is no longer on this earth. I had to ask you at least 5 times to clarify yourself by what did you actually mean by that sentence? Because I knew Bill was on vacation.
I couldn't believe it. Like I remember that night like yesterday. It was really late too. It was nuts. I don't even know why you're still awake. It's Louis called
like
my
11
cell phone.
o'clock.
Yeah, Louis called me at like 10:30 and I just looked at the number and I was like, uh-oh. If he's calling my cell phone at 10:30 at night, it's gonna be bad. And when I answered the phone, he goes, "Are you sitting down?" And I was like, "Great, somebody died." And then he's like, "Bill's dead." And then we just sat there for like 10 or 15 minutes. And I just remember sitting there and I could hear him breathing. And I was like, "Well, what do we do?" He's like, "I don't know."
You did the same thing to me. I think when you told me, I had all of those questions for you to clarify what you meant by what you said.
Yeah, I mean, the only thing
and then we just sat there on the phone.
I know, I didn't know what to do. I got off the phone with Louis and you were the first person I called, and I'm not even sure I texted you first to ask if you were up. I just called you and then sat there. Like, I don't know, Tanae usually has ways to solve problems. What do we do? That was just, I couldn't believe it. It was crazy.
When a NOAA senior official calls you at 11 something in the evening, it's never a good thing. I was like, what did I do? I thought I did something wrong.
And I remember we all got together like the next day to like discuss what do we do, and everyone was like totally united. They were like, Bill would be pissed off if we took our foot off the gas for a second.
Yep.
And so it was just like go straight ahead. But you again had to be clutch because this all fell in your lap now.
Yep. And so what
was that like? That was like panic moment for you. All of a sudden we're single threaded on this whole program.
Man, panic moment because I'm a band for, and I keep saying this whole the level, because level actually, the pay grade actually matters in terms of your ability to effectively get things done. I was a GS-14 band for, I didn't have any supervisory experience. I didn't have any staff except for one intern that was helping me on this. And now this whole program that Dr. Jacobs been talking to Congress about for the last year is on my plate to actually execute. And I was like, how the hell am I going to get this done? And then so I had conversations with Craig McLean. I had conversations, who was the assistant administrator of OAR at the time. And what he said was, Danae, whatever you need, blah, 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 blah. I said, really, Craig, I think what I need is an executive team of senior level folks who have authority that can basically be my top cover for actually executing this program and getting to the actual outcomes that you've been asking for, Dr. Jacobs. So, I basically I pulled together 3 individuals, and we would get together at 7:30 a.m. and 6:30 for some people, because it was all across the country. And we would strategize about how we're going to execute this program. After 4 people basically had to do what Bill was going to do. So that was my team. Those were my advisors. And those people, they got up every Thursday morning, and I would give them progress updates. They would give me some different strategies, who to talk to, introduce me to different people. And, they're the ones who actually help help to execute that program, man.
It's an amazing story that, you know, what Bill basically helped cook up on an ink board is now like a program of record. That's what I would consider pretty successful.
Yeah.
What, you know, I guess I did want to ask, when you were working with me on this, I remember seeing you actually mentoring some people, Leah Dubots being one of them. What was it like to also have people that you mentored? Were you sort of passing the baton, or?
No, I was trying to get work done. I needed help. But at the same time, I'm very much so, I don't like to work solo typically. I'm very much a collaborative worker, employee, whatever you want to call me. I like working with others. And so whenever I had the opportunity to bring in, you know, someone fresh, someone new to the program, I would always try to do that, because number one, I wouldn't be where I am without mentoring or without opportunities. And I want to be the type of leader that provides opportunities for others to you know, at some level achieve the dreams that they have for themselves, because I'm absolutely living a dream. Most of the things that I do today, I did not expect to be doing growing up in North Tulsa, to be honest. I am absolutely one of those individuals that, you know, I didn't necessarily always have a dream for myself. A lot of other people had dreams for me. And the fact that I was able to live out their dreams, but then also align their dreams with what I really was passionate about, I think that's really kind of the sweet spot for me, because, you know, I was just happy to be going to college. You know, at age 16, I didn't even really plan on going to college, to be honest.
One of the favorite photos that I have of us is standing in my office with Leah and Candace. Who else can like, anyone else you want to give a shout out to, particularly on the Epic stuff? I know.
No, I would love to give a shout out to the whole Epic team. They're doing amazing work. It's really hard work to manage a contract. So Mao Yi Wong, Krishna Kumar, I can't think of the other person's name, but just those are the people that are carrying the torch now. They are doing an amazing job helping the contractor to understand exactly what the community needs. And that is, I think I left after the contract was awarded. And really, to me, probably the hardest job is making sure that this contract is successful, and ensuring that the working with the contractor, that they're getting the type of data and the type of tools and technologies that the community needs, that they find really useful for doing research and development. And that's the hard part. And so Mao Yi, Krish, and that Epic team, they're doing amazing work, man.
That was a heavy lift for them, because I left right before it was awarded, and then I wasn't allowed to talk to anyone for like a year. And then you went to Boulder, and I realized all of a sudden this contract gets awarded, and they were like, what were Neil and Danae thinking about?
Well, that's the thing, though. You know, being successful at the Epic program is the reason why I was able to get a GS-15 Band 5, deputy director position. And so it goes back to what you were saying. Like, with Leah being there, she was the brain trust. You know, I depended on Leah heavily because she worked with me from when I pretty much, she started in that June. I selected her to be the intern for the EPIC program that June when I was basically, you know, preparing for the workshop that was in that August. And so she had been around the program since pretty much the beginning. I had only been around maybe a month or two before she had been around. And so ensuring that you have, you know, really amazing people that you can kind of pass the torch to and that have been a part of the program for a while, I think is really what has helped the program continue to be successful. And you know, I just can't wait. I just wish we had more money to do more things, to be honest. That's all I wish for.
Always great to have more money to do more things. I think it's so funny to hear about you dealing with and moving through these different organizations and dealing with people coming and going. And when I welcomed you to Norman, I kind of did the same thing to Danae. When he started, I think I was part of NSSL for 2 or 3 weeks before then jumping over to the Weather Service. I'll never forget telling you, I'm so sorry. I know you just got here, but you're the team lead for your social science unit.
And Kim was one of those people. Kim is one of those people that you want to work with. And you know, Kim, when I thought about working at NSSL, I was like, oh, I would get to work with Kim. I would get to work with Kurt. I would get to work with blah, 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 blah. And then 2 weeks later, oh, I'm leaving to go to the Weather Service. And I put on a bright smile and I'm like, Kim, I go on and go do great things at the Weather Service. But in the back of my head, I'm kind of cursing her out a little bit.
You know what's great is I appreciate that the team has gone on and they just went out and did field work after the Rolling Fork tornado, and I was able to deploy and do those things, and now they're able to do them without me, and that's almost the best thing you can see as someone who's brought up a capability and doing relief it, but it's successfully going on without you. So I think you're still in. That team is wonderful, and I'm so glad that you have one. And so I think that leads me to a question for you coming into NSSL. What's cooking at NSSL? What kinds of programs are you excited about taking on, and what can people look forward to coming out of NSSL in the coming years?
Yeah, so when I joined, they made the announcement, I think January the 6th, 2023, that I was going to be the director of NSSL, and so we're in Colorado at the American Meteorological Society meeting during that particular time, and I go to the OU party. I think it's a Tuesday, Wednesday night, and they had just announced it maybe like 2 or 3 hours before, and I get whisked up to kind of the suite. I'm like, oh, I done made it. I'm going to go talk to the big dogs at OU, and Rick Spinrad is there, and he's like, well, Danae, congratulations. Welcome to the Senior Executive Service. Now, what are you going to do about the phased array radar program? So that's what I'm excited about. I'm excited about what my boss is excited about. I'm excited about phased array radar and what how we're going to do kind of our research with that particular technology, and hopefully be able to influence what the radar next is going to be for the National Weather Service, because we have over 100. National Weather Service operates over 150, 159, somewhere around there, weather radars. But they are, they're old. They're, they call them 88Ds because they were kind of developed and established and rolled out in the early 90s, basically. And so we need to be able to have whatever that radar next is. And so I'm excited about our phased array radar program. I'm excited about what's going on within our hazardous weather test bed. The test bed continues to grow. It continues to attract researchers and academics and broadcasters from across the country. I think the test bed used to be something that was only a summer thing, but now it's a spring, summer, and almost fall thing for us. And it's when people come in there, it's a lot of excitement. It's a lot of ideas being generated. We're working on a technology called hazard services that's going to be transforming the way warnings get out to the public, the way the National Weather Service issues those warnings through a project called Hazard Services and the Threats in Motion project. I'm excited about that. I'm excited about what the social science team is doing and some of the risk communication and risk assessment work and that's going on within the social science team. And then, my background is numerical weather prediction, so I love weather models. And I think Warner Forecast is one of the cooler weather prediction systems out there. And so I'm really focused on trying to get that into operations because at the end of the day, our ability to save lives and protect livelihoods and property is really why I got into this. I got into this because I love to serve. I am a servant by heart. I'm a servant through and through. All I care about is serving the American people and doing amazing science. And we do some amazing science within the National Severe Storms Laboratory. And I'm just, I'm just blessed and excited to see where we go. And so I'm spending most of my first year really just learning the organization. And so, I've been on the job for a little bit over since March 24th. So it's been a few months now. And so I'm going to continue to learn more and more about what we do. And then I didn't even talk about some of the hydrometeorology work that we do within the laboratory because I don't know enough about it. So the multi-radar, multi-sensor work that we're doing, integration of new and non-weather service-based radars into MRMS, the multi-radar, multi-sensor platform is amazing work as well. So I could keep going, but I don't know if everybody knows what the heck I'm talking about. So I'm gonna stop right there.
Hey, Danae, if there's one mystery involving severe local convective storms that you would like to solve, unlock the mystery, what mystery would that be?
Whew.
Because there's a lot of things we don't know.
Oh yeah. Well, I guess what originally first came to mind was our understanding of hail and the size of hail and how we can use radar to better detect, predict the size and amounts of hail that cause damage to property. Because and the reason probably why I say that is because hail is on my mind because my house in Colorado, which hasn't sold, just got damaged by hail. And I have a claim in to get my whole roof got to get redone. My fence got to get taken down because the hail just totally smacked my house completely. And my house is on the market. So hail is kind of on my mind right now.
That's a good thing to have on your mind because there are a lot of hail mysteries. So one more from me, Danae. We get these wide-eyed interns at this time of the year.
Yep.
Had one in today from Texas A&M. We have one from the University of Georgia. And for a lot of these students, that they are very interested in one day, and this is a dream for them, to work at NSSL. It's a dream, and you're living the dream, and they want to live that dream later in their career. What advice would you give, say, a college freshman, junior, sophomore where they want to do this in 10 years? What's some good advice for them?
I would say don't think that there's just one path to achieving your dreams. There are so many different paths. And there's so many things that you can and will learn in between that are going to actually help you be even better when you do get that dream job. I went and did strategy for NOAA headquarters come after basically sitting at a computer all day and coding. And without that opportunity, without that experience working for SpinRad, working for Manson Brown, and understanding the big picture of NOAA, I wouldn't have interviewed very well for a director of the National Severe Storms Laboratory job. And so, take chances. Opportunities are going to come your way. You just have to weigh what it is how does this align with what your future aspirations are? And if it's in somewhat alignment with it and it's an opportunity and you can go in and learn and have a decent life. I'm not saying you're gonna make a whole ton of money, but if you can take care of your basic essentials, go and try that opportunity. That's why I went to the City University of New York and did that internship for a few months. That helped me to know that I really didn't want to be a chemist. So that's why I was like, okay, now meteorology is coming along. I'm really more interested in this, in numerical weather prediction and using computers to forecast what the weather is or predict what the weather is going to be like. I don't know if I didn't do something that I didn't enjoy that I would be here today. And so just be okay with all of the different opportunities and listen more than you speak. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth for a reason. And so at some level, there's a lot that we can take in and learn and then apply to ourselves and apply to our careers. And so, ensuring that you take in that information and figure out how does it apply, reflect on it, and then move forward and use the information that was provided to you to improve your life. I think that's really important as well.
I've got one more question for you. Totally off topic here. What do you do in your free time? What kind of hobbies? And you can name pool as one because you're definitely better than me at pool.
Yeah, I forgot that I beat you at pool.
You did, but you didn't beat me as bad as Shima did. She ran the table on me, and I knew I was.
She did. But what do I do in my spare time? So I love to mentor young people. So I've spent a lot of time especially when I was in DC, mentoring young Black and brown kids that come from single parent households. I spent a lot of time mentoring those particular individuals. And then, to be honest, I love sports. I love Oklahoma Sooners football. So do not talk to me when Oklahoma Sooners football is on, because I am not a nice guy. And if we lose, just ask my wife. I'm not trying to go to the movies. I'm not trying to go on a date. I'm not trying to do a lot of things if the Oklahoma Sooners lose a football game on a Saturday. And so the last thing I'll do is I do want to shout out my wife, man. That's my partner in crime. We've been together since 1995. I definitely wouldn't be where I am and the man that I am today without her. Her name is Lydia Carlos. She's an executive at the Acelera Learning. She's chief program and people officer there. And so I need to make sure I give her a shout out. She's the best. She's the best part of me, to be honest. There's no way I would be doing anything that I'm doing today without her. It starts and ends with Dr. Lydia Carlos.
Awesome. We got a song for you.
What's that? Uh-oh.
We can't hear. I don't think. It probably is for the best.
So no, I had to play a snippet of that. So Danae, I don't know what your time schedule is. If you can hang with us for a little bit longer, we've got to take a quick break and go to Tony Rice for his astronomy report. We're going to come back, and Jen is out this week, so we're not going to do email this week. We'll come back and do a quick weather roundup. We'll do picks of the week. So Danae, can you stay with us for a few more minutes? Do you need to go?
No, I can stay.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you. So we're going to take a quick break here for Tony Rice and his astronomy report. We're going to come back with weather roundup, picks of the week, and much more as WeatherBrains rolls along.
Looking beyond the atmosphere, here's Tony Rice with your astronomy outlook.
You may have noticed Venus in the western evening skies in recent weeks. It's so big and bright, it's really hard to miss. It reaches its highest elevation above the horizon this weekend. It also reaches a point in its orbit called dichotomy, when the line between Earth, Venus, and the Sun form a right angle. Mercury is also reaching dichotomy this weekend in the pre-dawn eastern sky. Now, if you got a small telescope, take a look. You'll see that each is half lit, Venus looking like the first quarter moon and Mercury like the third quarter. And you'll not see phases like this in other planets like Mars, Jupiter, or Saturn. That's because they're superior, and Venus and Mercury, they're inferior. Nothing judgmental there, it's just a matter of location. Inferior or inner planets are closer to the sun than you are, taking that inside lane, and will display phases as a result. We'll never see Mercury or Venus fully lit from our vantage point here on Earth. That only happens when the Earth, Sun, and inner planet are in a line. And that inner planet, well, it's going to be either behind the sun or lost in its glow. Superior or outer planets, they're further from the sun than we are, taking that outside lane, and will be pretty much fully lit from our vantage point all year long. But once you're away from Earth, it becomes an inner planet, so it will phase as well. Something that took many by surprise when seeing that iconic Earthrise photo taken by the Apollo 8 crew from lunar orbit in the 60s. But actually, we see a form of this phasing every day as the day-night Terminator marches westward from the point of view of the GOES weather satellites. It's your astronomy outlook. Follow me at RTP Hokie for more spacey stuff like this.
When the weather ball is red, warmer weather is ahead. When the weather ball is white, colder weather is in sight. When the weather ball is green, no change in the weather is foreseen. When colors blink, by night or day, precipitation's on the way.
So we're doing the show on Tuesday, May 30th, right, as we're getting set to cruise into meteorological summer, the hurricane season. And let's go to Troy. Troy's our low latitude correspondent here. Troy, what's brewing in the Gulf? What's going on here?
I've been called worse. Anyway, no, it's been fairly quiet around here. We've had our share of showers, and last few weeks, finally some rain in the drought areas to our west and southwest of Austin. And some relief there in the drought, but it's been so severe that it's been tough to get rid of that, even with flash flood warnings here in the last couple of days. But around Austin, not too bad. We're also ending the month, looking at the numbers today, with temperatures very close to normal for this time of year in Austin. That's something we haven't seen in May in a while. So that cloud cover and the rain that we've seen the last few weeks has been noteworthy. And it's also managed to kind of hold the temperatures down a little bit.
Well, I know you'll take that.
Yeah.
And in the Gulf, there's an upper trough and a little surface reflection, and kind of a convective blob showed up today, and the Hurricane Center put one of their famous X's out there. And anytime there's an X on their map, people start paying attention, especially when it's close by. And they're only giving it a 20% chance of development over the next 7 days. It'll kind of probably increase rain for Orlando and Tampa Bay and Daytona Beach, Fort Myers, Miami. Neil, what are your thoughts on that thing? You've been looking at it?
Yeah, I mean, there's some models that spin it up, but it's another one of these weird ones that's kind of got some extra tropical characteristics. I mean, it's the same with that one that was off South Carolina, yesterday and the day before. It's weird. You get this high pressure system that sets up in the Northeast, and these lows just kind of form either in the Gulf or along the coastline and spin there. And they look like, when you looked at visible satellite imagery, it had a clear, distinct rotation, but it wasn't a warm core system. So Pretty
Yeah,
interesting. I mean, there's another one in the models spinning up. At least Euro had it on there for a few runs, and the GFS has been off and on with it.
It looked like the GFS was trying to spin one up in about 10 days with the surface front in the Gulf. And that happens fairly often with a little surface low that forms on that thing, these little backyard systems. And a lot of them are hybrid. They're not classic tropical, but anyway, 'tis the season with the hurricane season starting Thursday. Danae, what are your thoughts on the hurricane season? I know you're NSSL, not NHC, but you got to have some thoughts.
Of course, I got some thoughts. You know, I'm interested to see what our predictions look like. I think they just really came out with the forecast maybe in the last week and a half or so for how many named storms we'll actually have. So, you know, I'm interested to see how those verify and to see if we have any major landfalling hurricanes. One of the things that we do at the National Severe Storms Laboratory is we go out and we do field campaigns and study severe weather. And with hurricanes, you can get tornadoes that form, and we have had some of our scientists out there to study some of the tornadoes that form during landfalling tropical systems. So we'll probably, again, be out there doing something very similar, but also working with our partners, such as the Atlantic Oceanographic Meteorological Laboratory, as well as other OAR laboratories as well. So, yeah.
Awesome. All right. Well, we got a lot of other Oklahoma correspondents on the line. Rick Smith, you don't want to use that Q word, do you?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. If the numbers, I think we're going to get through May. We're probably going to end up having had more tornadoes in February in Oklahoma than we have in May. Nobody's going to complain about that, and don't talk to the people in Cole and Dibble and Slaughterville and Washington about that. That's been the hot spot this year, but it's going to end up being having been a pretty quiet May. The good news is, May and June are the wettest months in the year here, supposedly, and it's kind of holding true this year. Weather pattern we've been in past 2 or 3 weeks has felt a lot more like June with MCSs and kind of the northwest flow some of the time. So yeah, it hasn't been quiet enough everywhere, but it's May. We're almost through May, and I'm happy to say it was not any worse than it was.
Rick,
Kim, what are your thoughts
with what we saw last week? Talking about the drought in western Kansas, some of that rainfall that we've seen. I saw some of the video from the Canadian River. And just huge expanses of water coming out of that area. So I assume some of that drought has been relieved a little. I know it's outside your county warning area, Rick, but some of that drought has at least been knocked upside the head, as I say sometimes, right?
I hope so. I haven't paid a lot of attention up there, but it takes a lot to really start turning that drought monitor going back the other way. So
yeah, that's true.
Hopefully it's knocked down a category at least, but yeah, that's great. That's a great spot. We can take partial credit for that. Talking about it made it rain up there, maybe.
Yep.
Yeah, it originated right here. Kim, what are your thoughts on the month of May and OK?
It's been great, but I do think it's really interesting, the drought piece. We've all been really excited seeing the rain in western Texas, the Texas Panhandle, western Kansas. It really desperately needed it. Something that is really challenging in what Rick was alluding to is drought doesn't really get busted until you've had rain for a while. And one of the, if you just get a whole bunch of rain falling on hard soil, a lot of it gets lost and it doesn't make its way into the groundwater, into the soil and recover all those losses. And when you've had the significance of drought that they've had there, it might take a little bit before all of this percolates. Now, what's been great about some of this convection is that it has been of this sort of messy, long duration form, that even if there are periodically high rainfall rates, there are times where you get rain repeatedly and for a while. So it's a little bit late to save this year's wheat crop, but the farmers who are trying to do the summer crops, here's hoping that we can make something out of this opportunity. And for us, it's just this lovely spring where we get the nocturnal convection. We get more of the stuff that it fires out in the Texas Panhandle and then comes over us overnight and early morning hours. And every single morning it's just this beautiful, dewy morning. And I take the kids out there and just show them, like, this is what dewdrops look like on leaves. You don't always get to see that in Oklahoma. I took it for granted in Indiana. That was just, part of life. But here, like, oh, this month we have it. Might not have it in July, but we're going to teach you guys about water existing now while it's good. So yeah, it's been beautiful spring, and I just hope that it portends really good things going into the start of summer.
James Adelot, what are your thoughts on the summer in Tulsa town?
Well, so far, like Kim and Rick and Danae have said, it's off to a really quiet start in Tulsa. We just have, due to pressure from powers above me, we do a 10-day forecast at the end of our 6 and our 10 o'clock newscast. And I put 90 on there for the first time in, it's been a while. But yeah, slowly evolving into mid-June with our weather pattern. But hey, I'm happy. The weather ball here is green. So
green. Green. Yeah, down here in the deep south, we had one of our coolest Memorial Days on record. We had some spots that were holding near 70 during the day.
Wow.
Dew points down in the low 50s and upper 40s. The humidity was low. It was just, it did not feel like Memorial Day. Typically, it is just hot and it is humid, and it did not happen this year, but heat levels are slowly creeping back up. But anyway, let's go to picks of the week. We'll kind of shift gears. We'll go around to everybody, and everybody's going to share a cool pick about weather. This can be a website, hardware, instruments, software, anything that's cool. So let's go over to Troy down in Texas. Troy, give us something cool.
Well, my pick of the week, really, and I know Danae will appreciate this as well as my friends in NOAA and the National Weather Service. I got to tell you, being 15, 16, 17 hours ahead of us here in the States, I really have to do a big shout out for our friends at WFO Guam. These people have been through hell in the last week, and I'm going to give you a little homework for next week. That for the idlets out there, Brandon and Landon, our WCM and our Sue out in Guam. What I've sent along is the Guam Homeland Security message website. This is for people in Guam to see because it is incredibly difficult. There's only one TV station in Guam. Most of the media shut down because of the lack of power out there. And this is where Brandon and Landon were so essential. They got on Facebook Live every 4 or 5 or 6 hours and talked to the people of the island. And I sat here on every one of those. I got up in the middle of the night just to watch those guys do such amazing job. Folks, I want you to realize we're a little less than a week down the road since the super typhoon Mawar passed out there. I want you to realize today that 70% of the island today is still without power. And I want you to understand that 80% of people still have no water. And it's truly, to me, you read some of these Guam Homeland Security updates. It's my homework for you for next week, because we are tentatively going to have the idlets on this program live with us next week from Guam. I want you to see what those people are going through, and God bless them. It is, you just don't imagine. And there's so much off the grid. I've spent my time in Guam and I like it out there because it's off the grid. This is one where I wish we understood a little more about what they were going through. And so my pick of the week, it's salute the National Weather Service in Guam and take a look at their Guam Homeland Security messages to the public about how tough things are right now. I think it's worth a read.
And I will also agree, Troy. I thought they did an excellent job with communication with those Facebook Lives.
Yeah.
I thought that they told a good story. It wasn't, to scare people. It was simply to inform people, and they gave them the information that they needed to know.
Well, James, one thing about it, I think people here in the States think is that, okay, the TV stations are going to be there. There's one NBC affiliate, I think, and there's a Fox station. But folks, all the media failed. I have 2 radio stations I listen to out there. I was listening as one of them just said, bye, we're off the air. We're off the air. We have no internet. We have no power. And that's when I, talked a little bit. I've got my WhatsApp, the Brandon and Landon out there, and they said, we're fixing to go live with Facebook Lives. And I said, go crazy with it, man. That's great. And when you sit there and watch, when you have 4,000 people watching this, now there were a lot of people here in the States. I saw people from SPC watching. I saw people from various weather service offices watching. That's good news. But with them, the weather service people, and we'll talk more about this next week, they were talking to the public. And it's like you said, James, they did an amazing job.
They did. All right, Rick Smith, let's go to you. What's your pick of the week?
Well, this time of year, it's an anniversary of some tornado just about every day in Oklahoma. We've been going through the 10-year anniversary of the 2013 tornadoes, May 19th, May 20th. The May 31st anniversary, as we're recording this, comes up tomorrow. That's the event where we had not only we had 8 people killed in vehicles by the tornado. We actually had more people killed by the flooding. 13 people died from flooding, and brought up all kinds of issues and things that we're still dealing with today. So my pick of the week is a webpage my office set up to that has recaps of all 3 of those days, has some new story maps that we're just adding. There's going to be a brand new story map added on there tomorrow, I hope, and a roundtable discussion that we did a couple of weeks ago with several of our staff members who worked the events. So not to self-promote, but I mean, those were some historic events there. And, we talk about the El Reno tornado from May 31st, 2013, that tomorrow is the anniversary of that. And always just like to remind people, the 3 storm chasers that were killed, it was tragic, horrible, Tim Samaras and his team there. But, there were 5 other people that also died in their vehicles in that tornado that day. So always like to, remember all of that and kind of look back but at the same time, look ahead and hopefully make things better from here.
No, I think it's important to look back on those events. Never, ever, ever, ever forget. And we can learn. To this day, we can learn from that. So those are great picks. Let's go to James Adelite. He's got to be on Fox 23 News at 9. So we need to get him in before the news begins.
Yes, sir.
And,
mine
go.
is from one of Danae's classmates at Carver Middle School in Tulsa.
All right.
Our best writing reporter, probably the best writer in the whole market, went to junior high, went to middle school with Danae at Carver, and she ambushed him as he came back to do a Carver Welcomes Back Danae Carlos Day. And it is the link to her story, and it is fabulous. She sat down and talked to him. He got the whole pomp and circumstance, man. They had the band and the cheerleaders and an assembly. It was amazing.
So, Danae, how was it?
Shocking. You should have saw my face. I was mind blown by the entire thing, and I'm again grateful. I was blown away, totally blown away, James.
That's awesome. That's a great story. And again, all the picks, by the way, will be up on the website, weatherbrains.com. All right, Neil Jacobs, what you got for us? Go.
So my pick of the week is an update from the Climate Prediction Center released today about the ENSO forecast. They've got a lot of background, and I thought it was interesting and relevant because with the NHC's and NOAA's prediction of the seasonal outlook in the Atlantic and the above average sea surface temperatures, a lot of people wanted to know how did they end up with an at average seasonal prediction, and it has to do with strong El Nino inducing a lot of upper level shear, sort of
Good deal.
offsets the warm temperatures in the water.
Awesome. All right, Kim, go. What you got for us this week?
Yeah, mine is a CNN article that the title sort of says it all. Murderers and criminals, meteorologists face unprecedented harassment from conspiracy theorists. And what's bringing this up now is overseas, actually, in Europe, they're having, in Spain, a significant prolonged drought heat wave event. And forecasters are finding themselves in the crosshairs as, yeah, James Adelot is putting up his chemtrails switch. Oh, yep, mine is in the office, James. So I don't have it on hand to join you all, but yeah, I mean, chemtrails are actually part of we needed that. Yeah, there are people who are harassing meteorologists in Spain as they're trying to forecast for and just talk about these extreme events that are happening. And they're saying, oh, you're covering up for the government. This is actually chemtrails. This is weather modification of some type. You guys are doing this to us and you're part of it. And part of the article is talking about how with climate change, you know, when these extreme events are going to be more frequent, meteorologists could be and are finding themselves in these crosshairs more often. And there are people who are getting very significant harassment in you know, crossing into sort of the, you know, personal safety concerns kind of domain. So just something for us to unpack. I know that there's everything from conspiracy theorists that are deep conspiracy and chemtrails that we deal with, all the way to people who question us on maybe more nuanced topics, like, do we hype things? You know, just are there people who are sensitive to us attending to worst case scenarios and sort of more earnest conversations we can have about forecast uncertainty and what kinds of futures to talk about. So all of this is stuff we should just really be thinking about in the modern media environment and so the modern conspiracy production environment. I think we have to be really attentive to what do we emphasize and how, and it's a tough place for meteorologists to be.
Yeah, it's brutal. Anytime you post a photo now of cirrus, you know, convective debris, whatever, on social media, there is a chemtrail action team. And there's just dozens of them, and they will just come on and attack you, and it's brutal. They are not nice. They are not nice. So it's a problem we deal with as well here too. All right,
well,
Danae,
you know, James, one thing too, James. I mean, get right down to it. Contrails are not hard to understand. I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, you know, come after me, cancel me. That what worries me more about that is just the fact that it tells me people don't have a basic understanding of the atmosphere.
No, it's
contrails are one thing, but chemtrails.
All right, Danae, we've stalled long enough. Give us something good. I know you got something really good for our listeners. A pick of the week. Go.
Oh, pick of the week. Well, I'll say what caught my eye this past weekend was some of the images coming out of Carnival Cruise Lines.
What's up with that?
Why? I mean, the low pressure system was sitting there for days and forecast for. Why are we sending ships with people on them into, you know, hazardous weather situations? And so I couldn't even look at the videos because it just made me sad, because it's like we do all of this work to protect lives and property, and then people just kind of ignore the forecast. So I'm just like, what's going on?
It's a Kim question. Whenever this stuff happens, it's a Kim question. So Kim, what went wrong here?
Oh yeah, I mean, we wouldn't know unless we had more information about the decisions that were made. But I mean, something that I do bring up when this physical stuff happens is there are non-meteorological factors that weigh into the cost-benefit matrix. So we'd have to know a lot more about what risks they were willing to take if they just took a very unfortunate gamble that they were hoping would pay off because there was some significant motivation to do so. Was it just simple error? This is where we can distinguish things that are forecast problems and forecast communication challenges from things where we really don't have control, and it's on the user to kind of make their decisions, as unfortunate as we might think those are.
Hey, Kim, my question would be, when are we going to hear the first time when someone says, well, there was nothing out on that from the National Hurricane Center? I'm waiting for that one. I'm waiting for that one. Yeah.
Well, we'll wait and see. It's funny. I was actually in a meeting with staff from the Ocean Prediction Center today, and I was dying to ask them about this. And we just had so many other cool things that we had to talk about. And we went over the meeting as it was, and I was just like, oh, I bet that this was really something that they were dying over. But I would have loved to know what they knew about those. Whatever happened there, I'm sure was crazy.
We'll get them on a show one week. So real quick, my pick, it's the NOAA's historical hurricane track page, which is interesting if you want to dig up any information about a historical hurricane in the past. So Danae, real quick, if anybody wants to learn more about NSSL, what's a good website for them to go to?
Oh, I think it's nssl.gov.
There you go. It's easy enough. Yeah.
It's actually nssl.noaa.gov, actually.
Okay, great. And again, thanks for your service. Thanks for your leadership, and thanks for giving us 2 hours. You're kind of a big deal, and for you to give us 2 hours, that's awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, I was surprised you guys gave me all this time. I'm a nobody.
Now, what do you mean? Goodness gracious, you, sir, are a big deal.
Yeah.
But looking at the clock here, we got to wrap this show up. If you're new here, we are typically on the air Monday nights at 8 o'clock Eastern, 7 o'clock Central. We're on Tuesday night this week because of Memorial Day. If you want to get in touch with us, any questions about something you've heard tonight, the email address, it is email@weatherbrains.com. And again, Jen was off this week. She should be back next week. We'll do a long email segment, but just send us an email. We'd love to hear from you. So on behalf of the entire WeatherBrains crew, I'm James Spann. Thanks for listening. Have a great week, and God bless. Hey, Danae, you were great. Thanks for the time.
Fantastic.
Great show.
Danae, thank
Great
you.
show.
Danae.
Yeah.
Thank you so much.
Excellent show.
I'm glad I wasn't boring to you guys.
Oh, you were outstanding.
That was
Outstanding.
an awesome
Good.
show.